Hi and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to create this stunning look right here using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette. So if you want to learn how to create this look, please stay tuned. As usual, we're starting out by priming our face using the Benefits Porefessional, and I'm just dabbing that into the areas where I have more pores, which is typically my cheeks, my chin, my forehead, and my nose. And then we're moving on to foundation. I'm using Makeup Forever Ultra HD foundation in the color R230. And first I'm using my fingers to place that all over my face. So I like to dot it on to spread it pretty much like evenly out before I go in with my damp beauty sponge. And this one is by H&M, and I use this to push the product into my face. And as you can see, this foundation goes on pretty flawless. You can't really tell that you have makeup on your skin. It looks pretty natural, but it is only a medium coverage foundation, so if you need something with a little more coverage, you have to try a different brand, I guess, or a different kind. I'm sorry about my raspy voice. And then to set my foundation, I'm going in with the Laurent Mercier Translucent Setting Powder, and I'm using a blush brush from Real Techniques just to dust that onto my face. On the areas where I want to set my foundation. And then for brows, I am, as usual, using my Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Wiz, and this is in the color Taupe. First, I'm using the brush end to brush my brow hairs upwards and outwards, and then I move on to the other side, and I start out by coloring in the bottom part of my brow. And with that done, I start to fill them out, starting from the tail and working my way towards the center of my brow, or like the inner part of the brow. And when I get to like the inner part of the brow, I use upwards motions instead of outwards motions to mimic those of like the look of actual hair and make the brows look more natural. And as I finished coloring them in, I'm just going over them again with the brush just to make sure everything is nicely filled in before I set them using my Anastasia Beverly Hills Clear Brow Gel. And as you can see, and then I'm going on to priming my lids, and I'm using the Urban Decay Primer Potion in Sin. And I like all the other primer potions from Urban Decay, but this one I didn't really like. As you can see, it's more for like shiny or like sparkly eyeshadows. And I was using mostly mattes, so it didn't really look good. And also I find that it doesn't, it's not as sticky as the other ones. So it doesn't, like the product doesn't fasten to the eyelid as well as it usually would. So then going in with the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette, I'm first going to use the color Tempera, and I'm using the brush that came with the palette. And then moving on to Golden Ochre. And I use the first color right below my brow bone, and then I'm using Golden Ochre in the crease. And I'm just dusting that on in windshield wiper motions. And I'm just spreading that over a pretty large area. Just to soften out the transition between like the Tempera color and the colors that we're we are going in with afterwards. So next I am going in with the color Warm Taupe, and I'm dusting that in my crease as well, but like slightly below the other golden ochre color, just to create a smooth transition between the two colors. And again, I'm using windshield wiper motions and slightly circular motions as well. Then we're moving on to the color Burnt Orange, and I'm placing this on the inner half of my lid. And I'm just dusting that on, and I'm still using the same brush that came with the palette. And then I'm moving on to the color Relgar, and I'm placing this on the outer half of the lid. And I'm still using the same brush. As I'm moving from like lighter colors to darker colors, I find that it's fine to use the same brush. You don't have to switch up the brush when moving from lighter to darker colors, only when moving from darker to lighter colors. Then we're moving on to the color Red Ochre, and I'm placing that in the crease and mostly towards the outer half of the crease. And I'm just blending that in with all the other colors. So it looks like this. And then we're going in with the color Primavera, and I'm just using the other side of the brush that came with the palette, and I'm dusting that onto the center of my eyes just to highlight that part of the lid and to make the eyes really pop. This gives like a beautiful sheen or like a beautiful glow to the eye. And then we are concealing the under eye area, and I'm using my Touche Eclat in the color number 2, and I'm dotting the product on using the applicator on the product. Just like outlining the area where I want the product to be. And as you can see, I'm creating like a triangle shape below my eyes just to make sure I both cover up dark circles and also have like a smooth transition between the under eye concealer and the foundation. And then I'm just blending that in using the same damp beauty sponge from H&M. And as you can see, I'm pushing the product into my skin. I'm not rubbing, just pushing. And this ensures that the product looks nice and natural. And to set my under eye, I am going in with my Mercier Secret Brightening Powder, and I'm using that on a Real Techniques blush brush. Then we are doing the under eye, and we're going in with the color Burnt Orange, and we are using a pencil brush to brush that onto the entire below the entire lash line on the under eye. And then we move on to a blending brush, and we just blend that color out, making sure everything is smooth, no harsh lines, everything is nice and blended. Then we're going in with the color Red Ochre and the same pencil brush, and I'm using this on the outer half of the lower lash line. And I'm just dusting that on close to the lashes. And then we are going in with the color Vermeer, and we are using this as the inner corner highlight. It's a beautiful color, and it really, really lights up the area, as you can see. Then for mascara, we are using the Benefit Cosmetics Roller Lash. And we are putting the mascara on using both upwards and downwards motions to make sure that each and every single lash is covered entirely in mascara. And I'm also doing my bottom lashes. And as by magic, both my eyes have mascara, and I'm just finishing it off by putting some extra on the tips of my lashes. And then we move on to bronzer. We are using the Benefits Hoola bronzer, and I'm using this with a Makeup Mekka brush, and this is a large angled blush brush. And I'm placing this slightly above the hollow of my cheek, below like the cheekbone, and I'm creating not a line but kind of. And then for blush we are using the NARS Orgazm and a Real Techniques contour brush. This is not my favorite brush for blush, but it was the one I had at hand that day. And then for highlighter we are going to use the Laurent Mercier Matte Radiance Baked Powder, and this is in the color Highlight number 1. And I'm using this with a setting brush, and I'm placing it on the tip of my nose, on my chin, on my upper lip, and on my cheekbones, the top of my cheekbones. And I'm also bringing it slightly up to the brow bone, just to lighten up that area as well. Then we're moving on to lips, and this is a Sephora Lip pencil, and this is in the color Royal Rose, I think. I'm like 90% sure it's this color. Let me check. Yes, it is. And I'm just lining my lips. I'm not overlining them or anything. I'm just lining them where my natural lip line is. And then I fill them in slightly from like the edges of my lips before I am going in with lipstick. And the one I'm going to use today is a lip color from Laurent Mercier in the color Milky Way. And I'm just filling my lips and using this. And then to finish off the lips, we are going to go in with the Modern Renaissance palette and the color Primavera. And I'm just dabbing that onto my lips using my fingers and smoothing it out using my fingers as well. And then to set and to finish our faces, we are using the Body Shop Vitamin E Face Mist. And I'm just spraying that on, and that's it. So that's it for this look. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give me a thumbs up if you liked it, and leave a comment down below if you have any questions, any feedback, or any wishes for future looks. Please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my videos, and you can also follow me on Snapchat and Instagram. My username is Superguri, and until next time, bye!